Hello everyone and welcome to another edition of VAFA Tragics. Great to have your company for another week, another huge weekend of footy. The weather was brilliant, the sun was shining, it was shining on the top of your head. Nick, which game did you go to?
I was at the Trinity game. I made it there for the last 3 quarters anyway, so I saw the tale of two games in that one match. Trinity fantastic in the first half. St Bede's came back in the second, but I'm super excited tonight, Lenny.
Why is that?
Super excited. The guest I've wanted for 2.5 years is coming on.
Who's the guest we got tonight?
Just the one, Lochy Dornauf from University Blacks.
Oh, that is exciting for all of the University Blacks fans out there and all of the young ladies. Is it taken man? Do we know?
I don't think he's a taken man. Well,
you'd have a few fans.
We'll have a few questions about that. Oh, handsome.
Very handsome.
Yeah.
One thing that's not handsome, and I don't know if this happened for you when you went to go and get a snack at half-time or a bit of sustenance out at Old Trinity's game. Dim Sims, it's on the agenda again.
It's big.
Yeah, well, it's price gouging at its finest, and I've got to say, real wages have not gone up in Australia in the last few years, yet the prices of dim sims continue to rise. Now, we exposed this last year on the Tragics, and I want to expose it again. I went downstairs before the show to get my customary couple of steamed dim sims. I probably have it once every few weeks, not every week. Mrs. Leonard back at home. But just clarify that. But $1.20 last year at the fish and chip shop, which I said was overs.
It was overs.
We wanted it to be about $1.
Yep.
Gone up to $1.40. That's a 16.5% rise.
$1.40.
$1.40
Less
per
than
dim
12
sim.
months.
I didn't have enough money on me. I only had $2.60, and I said I was just hoping for a couple.
Yeah.
She wasn't going to give it to me either.
Oh.
So I got one dim sim out of my $2. Of the highest order.
What is the world coming to?
Well, it's disappointing, and hopefully we're going to do a full audit of all VAFA clubs. So if you're out there and you're charging any more than, I'll call it $1.20. I'll allow clubs because they need the money and all that sort of thing into their canteens, but anything more than $1.20, you're ripping the punters off. What was your highlight from the weekend?
So my highlight I saw on social media, St Mary's Salesian had their 4th annual beer pong. Fantastic club, a lot of players, both men and women down there. They had 66 teams, 132 participants, 6 rounds, 63 matches and 756 cups. Now that is a lot of alcohol. Congratulations to Team Blood, Sweat and Beers, Nathan Evans and James Kerwood, who were crowned the 2018 champions.
That's a great result for St Mary's Salesian and a great fundraiser, I imagine it was.
Correct.
And we're drinking responsibly as well in the rooms. My highlight was this boomerang fail, I'm going to call it, from Uni Black's social media. Now, it doesn't make the social media segment, so it gives you an idea of the quality of the best use of social media that we're going to have in the segment later on. But if you can show this, Nick, this boomerang, it's at full time. I'm not sure what it's supposed to be showing. It's the Blacks have beaten Ajax and they're flying. We'll get Lochy to tell us about that when he joins us.
Disgusting.
Just strange stuff.
Who's in charge of social media down at Blacks?
We'll find out.
We're going to have to.
Yeah, from Lochy. On to William Buck Premier. Let's have a look at the games. Old Melburnians got their season started with a win over Uni Blues, which leaves the Blues 0-3. It was my worst case scenario for either of these sides if they were 0-3 after 3 rounds, and Blues find themselves in that position. Again,
and they've fallen away in the 4th quarter for the 3rd week in a row. Now, Old Melburnians were without Tom Paul. He's done his finger, so he's out for 4 weeks. But they welcome back Timmy Marshall, Matty Thomas, and a few other boys. They were 19 points down at 3/4 times and kicked 5-1 in that last quarter. Now, Dan Batterillo did have a chance late to put Blues more than a goal up, but hit the post, unfortunately. And then our boy Cam Banfield kicked his 5th in the 29th minute, 2 minutes before the final siren went, and sealed it for him. And those celebrations from our OMs, fantastic.
Are you worried for Blues?
I am worried for Blues. Absolutely, I'm worried for Blues. They travel out to De La Salle this week, and possibility of them going 0-4 is real.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. I'm not worried necessarily yet. There's still 3 teams without a win in William Buck Premier, which is amazing.
But how often, I know we don't have the stats ready, but how often does a team lose their first 3 games and still make finals?
Yeah, it's a strange one. The team I'm worried about is Old Scotch. I know they were very competitive against Collegians who have been so good so far this year. They went down by just 7 points at Wesley College out in Glenwave, which is one of these where the club goes back to their old school again. The problem I've got for Old Scotch at this stage is they've shown a bit, they haven't quite got the win, and they've come up from Premier B. You need to get that win early when you jump up a section, and if they haven't got it, it just becomes harder and harder, and the mental grind every week is harder for Old Scotch.
And they've lost all their 3 games by 13 points or less.
Yep.
So they've got an average losing margin of about 8. So super unlucky, you could say, which makes this weekend's clash against Old Melburnians at the new Alstonwick Park, which we'll talk about later, so much more important for them.
Old Trinity had a good win. They've won their first 3 games. Again, another just a small margin win for them. They're doing what they've done historically over the last 3 or 4 years, where they haven't just absolutely trounced teams, but they're just getting the job done. Good win.
And again, St Bede's Mento Tigers had their chances in that last quarter. They did all the attacking, probably in the second half. They got on top in the clearance battle, whereas in the first half, Harry, Tinney, Steinhardt, we spoke about these boys last week, were absolutely phenomenal, dominant. And then the boys came into their own, the St Bede's boys. And Josh Cowan, he's a favourite here on the panel. Unfortunately, could have brought it within a point, taken the ball back to the middle with about 2 minutes to go, but hit the post. So St Bede's, another close loss for them, but Old Trinity, they're just getting it done at the moment.
Biggest shock of the competition, no doubt, is Old Brighton. They're sitting on top of the ladder. 3 wins. Harry Hill on the show last week. They said they were aiming to play finals. I reckon they're going to do it.
I reckon they will too. At this stage, 3-0, you've just beaten De La Salle by 59 points, and they're running out games. So we're talking about these teams that are falling away in the fourth quarter. Brighton, while they might not have the top echelon of talent a lot of the other clubs do, they're running out games. They're fitter and they're running harder, and they kicked 8 goals to 1 in the fourth quarter.
That's some pretty handy school sides coming through in recent years to feed them, but they're going all right, the Tunners. I reckon they'll be good this year. Old Zabs without a win. Are you worried about them? The 3 sides, of the 3 sides without a win so far, who are you worried about the most?
Well, I'm worried about Uni Blues the most, purely because of the expectation heading into the season was that they would play finals and they would be a top 3 side. They were feeling better than
I'm talking about relegation. Don't worry about finals is a long stretch now. I reckon for all these sides at a 0-3. It's so hard to claw your way back, and it's not saying it's impossible, but who are you worried about the most for relegation?
Old Scotch is who I'm worried about the most, because as you said, I completely agree. If you don't get those close wins, it gets harder and harder, but we've seen that Zavs are capable of turning it on and flicking the switch, and they've had probably 3 tougher games to start the year, and they came within 38 points of St Kevin's, which is no mean feat given the form St Kevin's are in at the moment.
We're going to take a break. We're going to come back and talk Premier B with Lochy Dornauf from Uni Blacks right after this.
Anytime is the right time to get fit at Anytime Fitness. Access over 400 gyms across the country 24/7 and discover why more Australians train at Anytime Fitness than any other gym. Go online and register now for your free 7-day pass and feel something better.
Welcome back to the Tragics. I mentioned before the break we've got a special guest. He joins us now from University Blacks, Lochy Dornauf. Welcome to the show.
Pleasure to be here, Andrew. Thank you very much.
Got
a response as well for the dim sim gate that you had before. Yeah, I've got an offer. Come down to the Blacks and we'll give you 2 dim sims. We'll throw in a killer python and a Coke and do the boundary. How's that sound?
And run the boundary. Well, if you saw me running for the VAFA women's rep side last year, I'm probably not the most elite athlete you'll see.
You were blowing.
We'll scale that back to 1 dim sim then.
That's a good deal. We mentioned last week we had the best dressed panel guests on the show. I think Lochy stepped it up.
Without a doubt, he takes the cake here. I thought we put the memo out, wear a polo. Nah, Nico, I'm coming fully suited. You didn't even wear this to work today, I reckon.
It wasn't clean, unfortunately. So
obviously, he knows the female audience numbers for the Tragics is going up, and you're on the market. Understand? Is that right?
Yes, on the market, tentatively. So hopefully, you don't take advantage of that over the next 15 minutes.
We're going to see a serious spike in our female viewership this week, I reckon.
Absolutely. Tell us about the Black start to the year. Back in Premier B, three wins, good start.
Yeah, it's been a really good start. The boys are up and about. We've got a very young team, but for the first time in probably 3 years that I've been at the club, we've got depth. So we've got 8 to 10 people knocking on the door, which I think traditionally that shows that can be a side that can go into finals and hopefully go further in there as well. So
you've personally started pretty well. You kicked 5 goals on the weekend. You and Lockie Huntington seem to have it worked out up forward.
Playing second fiddle to Big Lock and absolutely loving it as well. He's absolutely dominating and a pleasure to watch as well.
Are you one of those forwards that wants to work their way into the midfield, or are you happy just kicking snags?
Well, I was originally a midfielder before I came down to the Blacks, and when you get a sniff of the goals, it's hard to go back. So I usually don't move too far out of that 50, actually out of the 10-metre square.
What percentage of your goals these days, the way teams press up the side of the Joe the Goose over the top?
There'd be a fair proportion, if I'm being honest. And I'll get on the end of a couple of them as well. So.
And you don't mind the highlight reel, do you?
No, I don't mind that at all. So better when bringing mates into it as well, which is good. So celebrations are key.
From Tasmania?
Certainly am.
What part of Tassie are you from?
From the north, so in between Devonport and Launceston, Deloraine, small country town. So
when did you move up to Melbourne, and where did you play? You played senior footy in Tassie first?
Yeah, so got the passport and then moved over 8 years ago and came over for a science degree, completed that and then went straight into real estate thereafter, following in the footsteps of Sam Hibbins and George Burberry's and our Armstrongs that have featured on this show as well. So must be a happy hunting ground for you boys.
So I guess like a tour to Ireland would have been a place where you would have been very relaxed. You would have gone and seen all the sights and all that sort of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. No, stayed off the piss the whole time, and it was very digital. So no, it was a good trip.
Enjoyable trip.
Incredible trip. Couldn't recommend it any more to the people that might get the opportunity. I think next year, every 2 years, take the opportunity. Seeing the cultures. Probably Galway and Cork was a highlight for me. Just the different people that you meet along the way, and then the post celebrations after a win or a loss with the team that you play is second to none.
And tell us about the friendships you've formed with boys from all sections, because I knew you and Michael Culliver were very close.
Yeah, we were. Yeah, there was almost a bromance triangle with Sam Hibbins, myself, and Michael Culliver. Unfortunately, I found myself on the outer many times with those three, with those two, but I'm working on it. So.
Coaching is something you're interested in? Tell us about that.
Yeah, so when I moved over from Tasmania, I obviously looked into playing footy and had a couple of years, almost a bit like a mercenary at times. But played 1 year at Latrobe and then went up into the country at Heathcote. And then thought there was more to football than just playing, and got an incredible opportunity to coach a football team, young football team out in Senior League out in Watsonia in Northern League. We lost the grand final by a point, unfortunately, but the experience
You're playing as well?
Playing for that. A little bit too young to retire at that time.
Yeah.
But the experience I got from that was incredible, and certainly will go back into coaching.
So how does that impact you on a game day, or even just through training with, Robbo giving you the, what for, and you're sort of sitting there going, I don't quite see it that way.
Yeah, I suppose. No, I suppose there's two ways of looking at it. When you're coaching and playing, you see the game from a different angle, and when you're playing, I think it's a little bit naive to think that you know what you're talking about. And luckily, we have an incredible coach in Cam Roberts, who I think is the best in the VAFA from what I've seen. And having him on for another year and the years to follow, if he doesn't get poached by any AFL clubs or wherever he does end up, is an experience that I can personally take on for myself when I do go into coaching later on down the track.
So you're coaching at Watsonia. What was the deciding factor for you coming to the Blacks?
So I then went from there up into the country to play a couple of years with Wang, and then came back down to the Blacks. My brothers originally played at the Blacks as well, 3 older brothers, and absolutely loved it, the on-field and off-field, which seems to follow in the blood. And yeah, then I got an incredible job opportunity interview with Colliers, where I'm at now, and just couldn't turn it down. So that's the difference, I suppose, from going from a paid club up in the country, where it does ultimately feel like a bit of a job, moving into the VAFA and finding a club that you can see yourself at 10 years. And I'm sure that stretch is not across just the A grade at the time, but B grade all the way through. So, can
I ask you about your time at college? You were recently named Rookie of the Year.
You've done your research, yeah. Yeah. No, I was. So it was a good year, but again, learning curves. I've spoken about learning curves before. It's ultimately trying to build yourself as a person, player, everything.
So the year for the Blacks, obviously the teams you played haven't dominated the comp just yet. So you've yet to play Carey, St Bernard's, some of these other, Beaumaris as well. What are your thoughts on how the year will go? So
if I look at the ladder now, I think Old Carey are on top. They beat Mazenod by about 70 points, and I think we only beat them by about 40, so that's thereabouts. St Bernard's are going pretty well. Obviously, we've won 3 games. The teams that we've played, Ajax, Parkdale and Mazenod, I'll say they'll take some scalps this year. I mean, a lot probably won't be thinking that they'll go far into finals, but the way that Parkdale and especially Ajax played on the weekend, they'll be very difficult to play, especially at home. So
Ajax and Mazenod were 5 and 6 last year, so
they're
going to be thereabouts again anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. And from what I've heard, I've got a couple of mates down at Ajax. They haven't lost too many players, so yeah, watch this space with them, I think.
Now, I need you to clear something up for us.
You
Raised
know,
it at the
this
top.
is where it
Raised at the top of the show. This social media performance. We're very encouraging of our clubs out there to do this, but I mean, Boomerang, it's made its appearance in the last couple of years, but this is one of the worst I've seen.
Yeah, we might have to impose some restrictions on the media content out of the Blacks, or increase the quality, because that's not the culture that we want to set down there. So,
Well, what can you tell us about this media content that we saw, I think, maybe a year ago?
Yeah.
When you were named as a finalist for the Cosmo Tinder Bachelor of the Year.
Right, now we start.
Yeah. This was always coming.
Yeah, I know.
Mate,
I know.
tell us about that experience.
Again, incredible opportunity. I don't know why. I was going to come on and say that someone else set me up, but I'll come clean. I'll go through it myself.
So did you put the nomination form in yourself?
Yeah, it's not necessarily a nomination form, but there's a button that you have to press if you do want to participate. And yeah, I definitely
So
pushed
the
it
rules
through.
were, Lenny, for this, to be a finalist in this, it took the blokes who got the most right swipes from women. So you're in amongst some elite.
Jeez, you
some
sound
elite talent there.
you sound pretty knowledgeable about this, mate. Were you?
Nick
Were you? And the
he
bottom.
didn't get very
This is
far.
why he wants to throw me under.
Yeah, and you travelled to Sydney for a photo
Yeah,
shoot?
travelled to Sydney.
How'd you go telling Cam Roberts that?
Yeah, no, it was hard to tell him my boss, actually. Yeah, it was like telling a disappointed father almost. But no, I flew out to Sydney, hung out with some D-grade celebrities, and then came back home. It was a great trip.
Very good. How are the Blacks going to go? You're going to win it? You're going to go straight back to William Buck Premier?
Look, we're confident, but again, traditionally, you don't just come straight back down to B grade and go all the way back up. We're a confident unit, but as you saw on the weekend, we were up by only about 12 points, I think, against Ajax midway through the third quarter. So I think it would be remiss of us to get too far ahead of ourselves, especially as we haven't played your old Careys and your St Bernards and whatnot. So I'll tell you at the end of the year. How's that sound?
Very good. How do you reckon his audition went for the females out there? I reckon they're swiping right out there?
I reckon he's done pretty well. I reckon just put it to 2Ks around the Richmond area.
Lochy, thanks for joining us on the show. Good luck
Thank
to
you
the
very
rest of the
much.
rest of the year.
Appreciate it. Thanks, boys.
We're going to come back and talk women's footy with Lucy Lochy right after this.
Anytime is the right time to get fit at Anytime Fitness. Access over 400 gyms across the country 24/7 and discover why more Australians train at Anytime Fitness than any other gym. Go online and register now for your free 7-day pass and feel something better.
Welcome back to the Tragics. Hope you're enjoying it, and I hope every club is going out there to just check their dim sim prices after that opening tirade from myself. Lucy Lochy joins us. Lucy, are you a fan of dim sims?
I think they're fantastic. Absolutely sensational.
And prices of dim sims at Caulfield?
I would only pay $1 for a dim sim.
Yeah. Well,
$1.40 is outrageous.
that's
No one should pay that.
Exactly
it's
right.
an injustice.
Exactly right. You better tell us what's happening in the world of VAFA Women's.
Okay, so in Premier, we had Fitzroy ACU get up with their first victory for the season against Caulfield Grammarians at Ramsden Street Oval. Erin Gugley was again sensational, as was Lucy Kerr, and Hilary Collette kicked 2 goals and was sensational. And in her side's defeat, Emily Sandler for Caulfield was amazing. She had 36 hit-outs and took 5 marks. We also had Melbourne Uni up against Old
Before you
Trinity.
move on, who's this Al Lekic with 22 touches from Caulfield Grammarians?
Oh, I don't know who she is.
Not a bad game by yourself?
Just it's a one-off, Nick.
Now that you've played, let's just not rest on this. How many of the girls are checking out the app after the game to see what their stats
A
are?
fair few. It's quite popular. It's very much looked at, at half-time, after the game.
Not at
Half-time.
half-time,
Oh, some
surely
girls,
not.
yeah, some girls get it up. I mean, who doesn't want live stats?
Oh, dearie me.
Deary me,
Didn't quite it
indeed.
was that
How good
ingrained
is that?
already in
How
the
good is
in the
that?
culture of VAFA Women's.
Everyone gets around it.
Yeah, great. Rightio. What else?
So in Premier Blue, we had Old Geelong nail-biter against Brunswick Renegades. They were neck and neck for the entirety of the match up until the final quarter, and fantastic efforts from Ellie Kirkwood and Lucy Gubbins to get them over the line in the end. And additionally, Salesians got up against Mazenod, and we had Steph Lawrence kick five majors. She was outstanding.
Love seeing the forwards get up and about, kicking big bags of goals, and when you got someone
She's a gun.
Yeah, someone like Steph doing that on a weekly basis, it's going to be make them hard to beat this year.
She's a gun. And then in Premby White, we had Bowie. They had a draw against Old Brighton. So Bowie looked fantastic in the third quarter and looked to win the game. However, in the final term, Old Brighton kicked 2 goals to equalise the score. And
Could this come back to haunt Bowie? Like we saw 2 weeks ago, they had a match called off because of an injury, so split points. They've let one slip here, ultimately against Old Brighton.
Come finals. Bowie seniors when they were in William Buck Premier a couple of years ago. They had a game called off early in the year, and then they had a draw later in the year as well to level up their year, and ultimately they got relegated. So yeah, well, not the same consequences at the moment in the women's, but still, yeah.
Anything in the divisions?
Yes, so in Div 1, Hawthorn AFC maintained top of the table lead, and they had a great win against South Melbourne Districts. In Div 2, Whitefriars and Old Melburnians, they drew. And then in Div 3, we had MCC, a 100-point victory against Westbourne, so they're looking the goods. They're looking the goods.
Have we got the right grade for the MCC? Is there any chance of regrading at all?
Perhaps. Soon, very soon.
If it's going to happen, it's going to happen this week. Now that we're after 3 rounds, and the women's have got the bye this weekend, so it gives time to regrade. But I think they might stay there and just be super successful this year.
Fair enough, and good on them as well. Now, a couple of other quick questions. Scoring seems to have gone up in the women's competition this year. Is that something you've noticed as well? A lot more goals, a lot more scores?
Yeah, a lot more goal kickers. Plenty of strong forwards I've noticed in many of the different teams, and lots of girls, having a real crack and, having a crack at the kicking goals, and it's fantastic, especially Melbourne Uni. They have such a vast number of goal kickers. Same with Q Bears, huge array. So it's fantastic for women's football again to see so many girls.
Now, the pressing issues, Nick, we like to do the pressing issues here on the Tragics. I've noticed there seems to be, I would say, more than half of a team on any given weekend wearing makeup. Are you a makeup wearer when you play footy?
Absolutely not. It would get all over my face. It's just sweat. Who wants to mix that?
There are guys out there that do their hair before they play. So
yeah, well,
you look more intimidating if you have a full face of makeup, you know.
You never know when the VAFA photographer is going to be down there either.
Exactly.
Oh, absolutely. You've got to look your best.
Exactly. So you're thinking, I want a report next week. Tell us, what do you think the percentages are of makeup or non-makeup amongst the girls? You can look at the opposition. Have a week to think about it.
Take it to the girls at Caulfield.
I was going to give you a percentage, but all right.
No, I want actual numbers.
Okay, I'll get back to you on that.
Well, the Royal Commission into makeup, what we're doing into dim sim. Lucy, thanks for joining us again.
No worries. Thank you so much for having me.
We'll see you next week. Back with more in a moment on the Tragics.
Anytime is the right time to get fit at Anytime Fitness. Access over 400 gyms across the country 24/7 and discover why more Australians train at Anytime Fitness than any other gym. Go online and register now for your free 7-day pass and feel something better.
Welcome back to the Tragics. Unfortunately, we've spent a lot of time talking to our guests, Lucy and Lochy, so we're going to get into a full review and recap on all the other sections, Premier C, Division 1, 2, 3, 4, next week and go into a bit more details with them. So that gets us on to best use of social media, quick questions, and best and worst case scenario to wrap it up, Nick. So why don't you kick us off with the best use of social media this week?
Now, I went nuts after we debuted this segment last week, so I've given it to Old Scotch's little TV show called House of Cards with Tilly and Stav. Now, Tilly interviewed the great Nick Jamieson on the weekend. If we know Jamo, he's a VFL Premiership player, he's a leading goal kicker, state squad member, and he took out the Sutton medal for VFL BNF just last year. So how do you feel about this, just getting this slap from Till during their interview?
So, obviously winning the best and fairest for Western Bulldogs at VFL and being back with us, Old Scotch, what do you think let you down in getting to the AFL?
I don't know.
Old man?
Probably just luck. I think it wasn't lucky enough.
Absolute pure savagery from Till there, but I really like the show, so they get my best use of social media.
So I said we would cover the lower sections next week. We will cover a bit today with Westbourne Grammarians, their team doing a great job of singing their song and then following out with a bit of I Love You Baby, and if it's quite alright, I don't mind that as well. I reckon that's great work from Westbourne Grammarians in the background
out the park too.
Yeah, exactly right. Good on them. Right, quick questions. Straight into it, Nick. Are Uni Blues too top-heavy with Cordy Williams and Millam?
I think they are a bit too top-heavy. Like we said earlier in the show, they're falling away in the fourth quarter. They've had 20 goals to 5 kicked on them so far in the fourth quarter from 3 games. And I think last year we saw them as Williams' one-out ruck. They made a preliminary final. Now, they've brought in AFL quality ruckman in Cordy. They've got Williams playing at centre half forward, and they've got Millam, who's a super talented on the northern list. But I think they are just that little bit top-heavy and need a little bit more run. Andrew, is UHSVU and Old Paradians the game of the round in the VAFA this weekend?
Yeah, it'll go close. Both two undefeated sides. It's a shame we don't have video coverage of these section games and radio coverage, because I'm sure there'd be a lot of eyes on this one if in the aftermath if we had video coverage of these games. Nick, who claims the number one out of Powerhouse and Eltham Collegians?
I think Powerhouse do claim their first win.
Yeah,
I think Powerhouse do claim their first win. Both are battling at the moment. We know Eltham struggles just to get a team up this season. I think they will struggle throughout the year. I think Powerhouse will just get it done, but hopefully Eltham play themselves into a little bit of form.
Got a final one for you. Nick, are we disappointed that there's no games on Anzac Day this year?
I'm disappointed. Personally, I'm a little bit disappointed. But Anzac Day falling on a Wednesday makes it super difficult, as you can understand. Like, we've usually got the Fitzroy play Ajax, I believe, and Old Scotch have always got a game
against the Beats. Yep.
Yeah, on Anzac Day, and I think it adds that little bit. But in saying that, a lot of clubs got around Anzac round on the weekend. We saw a lot of
the ceremonies before the games, and good footage, exactly right,
correct,
coming through as well. In terms of best case, worst case scenarios this week, what have you got?
I've got my best case being Old Melburnians and Old Scotch playing a classic on the newest and best ground in the VAFA, or surface in the VAFA, at Alstonwick Park. So the first ever game there since it's been redeveloped. And I think best case scenario, they both play a fantastic game. Worst case scenario, I've got Monash Blues lose by less than 10 goals. So lose by more than 10 goals, sorry. So they've struggled, Monash Blues, so far this season. They play Uni Blacks. It doesn't get much easier. So if they can come to within 10 goals, I think that's a win for them.
Best case scenario, I'm going to go the same game. Old Scotch to win is the best case scenario for them. They need a win. Worst case scenario is every side without a win so far gets another loss, because really staring down the barrel at that. Yeah, 0-4, really staring down the barrel there at that stage. Been a brilliant show.
It's been fantastic. I've had a lot of fun tonight.
It's been good fun. I hope you enjoyed it too out there in VAFA world, and we'll see you next time on the Tragics.